Good morning.
We're on the bottom of the Nalchamid base. Talk about Ktanai Ksuba and Shvuya, and the husband asked to redeem his wife if she was captured. And the Mishnah had a difference between Kohen and Yisrael. Yisrael, he says that the Chiyuv Ksuba is that he'll redeem her and take her back as a wife because he's allowed to marry her, even if she was Nensa. He's allowed to marry her, but stay married to her. But a Kohen, that a Shvuya is also to him, so he's not allowed to take her back to marry, but he still has a Chiyuv to redeem her and bring her back home. That was the Mishnah. So very interesting thing comes out. That's a little preview of what the Gemara is going to talk about. That the Yisrael is machayiv himself to marry her. The Kohen is machayiv himself not to marry her, not to stay married, but just to get her back home. So there might be other nafkaminas also, because if the chiyuv of the Yisrael is to take her back as a wife, what if he cannot take her back as a wife because she's usher, other reasons? That's nothing to do with the captivity. Just that she was usher. I think I was going to say examples about Mamzeres and Sinul Yisrael, 5:11, cases that he's not allowed to. He shouldn't even marry her, right? He shouldn't even have married her, but he did. And there's a chiyuv ksuba anyway. He's chayiv ksuba even though he wasn't allowed to marry her. Rashi brings down this kind of chiyuv ksuba he has. But he's chayiv ksuba. But now it comes out a difference between the chiyuv of the husband of the Kohen and the Yisrael. The Kohen was machayiv himself more. The Kohen was machayiv himself even if he's not able to marry her, that he should bring her home to her father's house. The reason why he did that is because he's asked her to take her because of a shvuya. But if the nusach that he's machayiv himself is to bring her home, even though he's not going to marry her, so he might have more chiyuvim than Yisrael does. Yisrael has only chiyuv to ransom her if he's able to take her back. Maybe if he's not able to take her back as a wife because he can't live with her, she's also to him. So there'd be a tzad to say that the Yisrael is not chayiv, but the Kohen should be more chayiv because the Kohen's chayiv to take her back even though he cannot marry her.
He's chayiv to take her back even though he can.
Of course, this has nothing to do with.
Have to marry her even though he wasn't supposed to.
If the Kohen is supposed to take her back even though he can't marry her, then why can't he use?
Very nice. Because in the ksuba he only obligated himself to take her back, but he's not taking her back. You'd say that if he has to take her
back as a wife, it says. Right. To take her back as a wife.
But he can't take her back as a wife.
Right. He can't take her back as a wife.
So just as a Kohen.
But a Kohen didn't
take her back as a wife. Still has to
yes, because he wrote
differently. Even though he wasn't supposed to marry her, should take her back.
Because the Kohen wrote differently in the Kesuvos. The Kohen writes that.
That's what I was going to ask you. The Kohen's Kesuvos is different.
Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah, that even though it doesn't say in Anaksub, we don't write the whole thing about captivity. But then the Mishnah said that difference between the Yisrael and the Kohen. The Yisrael writes, "I'm going to redeem you. If you get captured, I'll redeem you and take you back as a wife." And the Kohen writes, "I'm going to redeem you and take you back home to your father's home."
Today, when they write a Kesuvos for Kohen, it's different than.
No, so I said all these things they don't write it at all. They don't write into the Kesuvos at all. They don't write all these things they don't write in. But really, that's what the Chiyuv Kesuvos is different between a husband, between a Kohen and the Yisrael maybe. So Abaye says that the Kohen has more Chiyuvim than the Yisrael does. That's what Abaye says. The Gemara starts on Abaye, Amar l'Kohen Gadol Chayv Levdosa, Shani Kor. What?
I'm sorry, Amar Abaye.
Yeah, Amar l'Kohen Gadol, or for that matter, any kind of Chayv Elavin, Chayv Levdosa, Shani Kor Ba. Over Kohenes Advinach Lemedintach. It says in the Mishnah that Kohenes, the wife of a Kohen, he's machayiv himself to take her back to her hometown, even though he cannot marry her. But he's machayiv to take. So here you're chayiv elavan also, even though he's not allowed to marry her, but he's still chayiv to redeem her. But Mamzeres Unesina the Yisrael, or for that matter, any kind of a chayiv elavan that the Yisrael is not allowed to take back. Because over there, by the Mishnah, by the chiyuv of the Yisrael, when he says, "I'm going to redeem you," over there he says, "I'm going to take you back as a wife," and he can't take her back as a wife, so he's not chayiv. And it seems that nobody argues in this point. The second point, nobody argues, but Yisrael is potter because he's only mechayiv himself to take her back as a wife, but he can't take her back as a wife, not because of the shevi, but because of Mamzer and Yisrael. So he's not chayiv to redeem her. Of course, just to point out that all this is pidin shvuim over here. Of course, they're going to redeem her as the community. But does the husband have an individual chiyuv over here? He's only mechayiv himself if he's going to be able to take her back as a wife. But Abaye's chiddush is the first point that by Eshes Kohen he's mechayiv himself more. Since he wrote, "I'm going to take you back even though I can't marry you because of shvuya. So I'm going to redeem you and take you back home to your father's home." So Mameli is chayiv even the chayiv elavan also because anyway, he's taking you home to her father's house.
It still sounds very selfish. It's like a selfish thing. Oh, I can't take her back as a wife, so I'm going to just let somebody else redeem her. You were married to her for 20 years.
Yeah. So of course, if he wants to, that's fine. But that's the chiyuv ksuba. I had the chiddush came out during the preparation that the chiyuv of redeeming shvuya is not just an extra thing besides the marriage. Like I'm going to redeem her if she needs pidyon shvuyim. I'm going to bury her. It has to do with the marriage, that we're married even after captivity. I'm going to keep the marriage going even after captivity. That's the way that's the chiv of the redeeming her. Is not just we throw it onto him, he should ransom her out. What we would have to do, he has to do. It's a different kind of a ransom. It's a different kind of a redeeming. He's redeeming her as a wife. He's redeeming her as a wife, and that doesn't apply. Doesn't apply. That's the sort of the whole Gemara coming up, that the redemption that the husband does is because because there's a marriage going on. The marriage is continuing.
The truth is, even just regularly, it's a tough thing for a husband to take a wife back if he thinks that that she was
She was married.
and he takes it back as a wife. That's not a positive thing anyway.
Okay, but I see that the chiv of this redemption is going to be continuing the marriage,
Right.
and since he can't continue the marriage, so then that's not it. Of course, he has to give like everybody else, but he can go to the community fund and say it's a chiv that everybody. My chiv is only if I can take it back. I can't take it back.
What does Ani Koreba mean?
I don't.
Ani Koreba.
I cannot call
cannot
it.
say
Means right that I don't. It's not called.
because it is written. I thought it's written.
Yeah, no, but in this case it's not. It means it doesn't apply. This clause does not apply. Since the clause, the Mishnah, the chiyuv that says Asfina Chlila into, since this doesn't apply because she's a mamzeres and a sina
Since
Yisrael.
it doesn't apply, so then
So that's not what I obligated. I didn't obligate myself to take back mamzeres and a sina. I only obligated myself if I could take it back as a wife. This woman, I'm not allowed to take it back as a wife. Bess is not going to let me live with her, so I can't take it back as a wife. So that's not what I obligated myself.
I thought the marriage was a good marriage.
Mamzeres and a sina Yisrael. It's chayv elav. He's not allowed to stay married.
It was chayv alav. Oh,
It takes effect, but the marriage is a marriage. She needs to get, but they're not allowed to stay married. So I can't doesn't apply
to say
that I'm going to take you back as a wife. So I don't. There's no chiyuv of pidyon. And this point's not going to be a point. This point, everybody agrees to this. The second point is the bias chiddush is the other way, that the Kohen is mechuyev to redeem her, even though he can't marry her. There he obligated himself more. Over there he obligated himself, even though I can marry you, but I'm going to bring you back home to your. Rabbi himself, if it has to do with the captivity, it means the whole difference between the Kohen and Israel is that since the Kohen is not allowed to marry a shvuya because of the shvuya, because of the captivity, so then he has to go back home, even though he cannot marry her. But he wasn't mechayev himself more than anybody else. Is a davar achik gom lo ein chayev of the. So the Kohen is not more than anybody else. Says that I'm going to take you back home, even if I'm not going to be able to marry. It's only as far as the Kohen can marry Yishmuya. But don't take this so literally that he has a different kind of chiv altogether. He's chayev to redeem her, even though he can't stay married to her. He also is only chayev to redeem her if he can stay married to her. With the one exception that he can't marry any of them because a shvuya is also to Kohen. That's all he meant. That's all he meant. And the words that he says, these things that the Kohen says, I'm gonna take you back home even though I can't marry you. We only meant to add on this one thing, that a shvuya, now that you got captured, I'm not allowed to stay with you anymore. That's not going to be a reason why I'm not going to redeem you.
if a Cohen married a who can't he marry a Grusha? If a Cohen married a Grusha, then he wouldn't be chayav to. Rava would say he wouldn't be chayav to redeem her.
Right.
That's what he means. That's what he's
Right.
saying. A biased thing is only for.
But he doesn't agree to Abaya. I mean, Abaya's thing that we're not only for shvuya, only what the Mishnah says that the Kohen's chayav to redeem her, even though he can marry her.
Rava qualifying.
He's saying,
He's saying I agree with you, Abaya, when it comes to
I don't agree
a
with you.
Cohen who was married legally to somebody.
Right, but that's not agreeing to Abaya. That's the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that. The Mishnah says that the Kohen has to redeem her, even though he can't take her as a wife because he's a shvuya, and he has to bring her back to her father's home. That's the Mishnah. But Abaya took those words and says, "Oh, that he obligated himself to bring her home to her father's house, even though he can't marry her. So any reason why he can't marry her is also going to be chayiv too. Even there's other side reasons why he can't marry her. Also, he obligated himself more than Israel does. Rabbi says no. He only obligated himself one more thing than the Israel, that even shvuya, and I can't marry, Kohen can marry a shvuya, that's not going to be a reason not to redeem. But it doesn't mean that the whole chiyuv is different. He also is not obligated to redeem her. The Gemara thinks that it has a brisa that is this machlokus. The Gemara thinks that it has the machlokus of found it in Tanoim. Amadir Sishtov and Ishbis. He made a neder in a way that he's not allowed to have relations with her. We'll get that in the Dorim that has it, or later on this Pesachta, that it's possible for a husband to make a neder that he prohibits himself. Same way he can prohibit himself from eating apples. So he can prohibit himself maybe not have relations with his wife. And then he's not allowed to live with her and he has to give her a get. We'll see the details later on. So sometimes he can't do that because he's obligated to his wife. So maybe the neder doesn't take effect.
Normally like for 30 days or something.
So if he didn't, so we're not going to the details, but it's going to be a way that he's obligated to divorce him. He did it in a way that is obligated to divorce him.
And then
He's saying till 30 days, so then they can still stay married and wait for 30 days. But if it's more than that, so then he's obligated to divorce her.
Okay, and then she got.
Then she got captured. So this is a case that he won't be able to take her back again. He's going to have to divorce. He's not going to be able. So here it says, so it might, we're touching on maybe a case of a machlokus between Abai and Rabba because he can't take her back. Gives her ksuba, but this right that and we're going to say it's talking about a kohen. The Gemara is going to say it must be talking about a kohen because if it's Israel, you can't. Everybody should know he doesn't have to be told there because he can't take his wife. But if anything, maybe somebody a kohen would there buy at least that he does have to be told there because he could take her back home to her father's home, and maybe that's the machlokes. And that's what the Gemara is going to say soon. My love, I'm skipping a couple of lines. My love, my is going to Meflagi, but by don't kabbalah, that's what it seems. It seems that that's what machlokes must be. That it must be talking about the husband's a kohen, and even though he can't marry her, maybe he's chayv anyway, like Abaya. That's what the Gemara thinks it has a raya. That's we skipped a little bit to go back to that in the brisa. I'm Rabbi Nosson Shalti as Sumchas. I asked. Rabbi Nosson says I asked Sumchas. Kisham Rabbi Yeshua knows Sumchas Basab in the Poda. When Rabbi Yeshua says he doesn't have to be poder, but understand that Rabbi Yeshua says it doesn't have to be poder. Kishidiru l'b'sof nishbis or nishbis l'b'sof adira. Is it only if he had made the neder before she was captured, or even if he made the neder after she was captured? What does Rabbi Yeshua say in a poder? Even if he made the neder after she was captured? Amali lo shamati. I didn't hear about it. I didn't hear anybody say what Rabbi Yeshua meant. But I have an opinion.
What do you mean? If he made the neder after she was captured, he has to poder her.
Why?
Because of the time she was captured, he had a chiyuv to.
But right now he can't take her back as a wife.
Oh, he can kick in any time.
Maybe that's a loophole. Maybe that he can't take her back as a wife. So he's not obligated to be poder. Now let the whole community be poder. I can't take her back as a wife. That's true. I messed it up. I made the neder, but now she's a woman that I can't take back. So I'm not obligated. The obligation of the Kesuvos only says if I'm able to take her back, I can't take her back. You're saying probably what the Gemara says. Rabbi who said the Sumcha said, I don't know, I didn't hear about it, but it seems to me that only if he made the nether first. The but if he said Allah would be even if she made the nether later, it's going to be like a haram, a trick. He'll get out of it by making a nether. Not that he really wants to make a nether to ask her for other reasons. He's making it only to get out of it that he shouldn't have to redeem her. So probably it's talking about if he only meant if he made the nether first before she was captured. That seems to be a side point about the brisa. I put in parentheses. We'll soon bring it up again. It's going to come up on the stage soon. But first, the Gemara thinks that we found the machlokas between Abai and Rava. This thing that it talks about the nether. They're talking about other isurim, Alman l'kohen gadol, Musha v'chlusa l'kohen hedyot, anything that the Kohen was usher to. So Abai said he has to redeem her anyway. And here's another case that a mother is ishto, that he's not able to have relations with her, so he has to divorce her. So also Abai should say that he would have to redeem her, and Rabbi says not. That seems to be a machlokas between Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua. But the Gemara tries to get out of it. Lo, maybe not. A different machlokas altogether. Maybe the case machlokas, there's room for machlokas if she made the neder and then he affirmed it. It means there's two ways to make a neder. One is that he makes the neder, he asks himself, or she asks herself, but she still needs the affirmation of the husband, or else he could nullify the neder. So here, she has something to do with the neder. It's not that he did everything. Before the Gemara didn't make a difference whose fault it was. Even if he made the neder and he's the one who messed everything up, that's also the Gemara thinks is the reason why he shouldn't have to redeem her. Now the Gemara is going into the svara that it could be that if it was his fault, it's more reason why he should have to redeem her, because it's his fault. He's the one who messed it up. Other cases, they married. They weren't supposed to be married. Here, he's the one who made the Isser to have relations. So how about if she made the Isser to make the relations? It means according to this Gemara, it seems that if he would be the one who made the neder, then surely he has to redeem her. You messed it up. Redeem her. But if it's her, she's the one who made the neder, and so then how you look at it? You need him also. He's also a partner because he affirmed the neder. So how you look at that? Who knows in Ezra ben Shinaha? Rabbi Elazar Sava holds that he's the one at fault because, as if to say, he put the finger between her teeth. What does expression mean? Maybe to bite on the finger or something like that. Like he's the one, like we say, to put the foot in the mouth, right? Something like that. But he's the one who was at fault because he affirmed it. So therefore, he should be pulled there. But Bishua Saba, he knows that's what benching. That's her fault because she's the one who made the nether. She's the one who messed herself up by making the nether. So that's the Gemara's suggestion. Maybe it's nothing to do with Abaye and Rava. It has to do with this question. Maybe if it's his fault, is the reason why he should be poda. If it's her fault, it's the reason why he should not be poda. And if he would have made the nether, then surely it's his fault, and he would have to be poda. And the Bryce is talking about that she made the nether and he affirmed it. You look at it like it's his fault.
Excuse me. Rabbi Yoshua is saying it's her fault because she
made the nether. She made the nether.
But
he had to affirm it. It's true, but she made the nether, so we can't tell him to redeem her if
so
she's the one who caused. She started. Not that. That's not doing anything with starting. It doesn't say if it's because of a fight or other reasons, but she's the one who made that. She shouldn't be able to have relations. And he says, if it can't have relations, and it's your fault. You made that, made the nether. So I don't have to redeem you because I can't take you back as a wife. I'm gonna have to divorce you. And Rabbi Lezer says, but you affirmed it. You shouldn't have affirmed it. So you're the one who has
power
of nullifying, right?
Not affirming,
right? So that's what the Gemara suggests. Maybe it's nothing to do with Abai and Rava. But the Gemara doesn't like that. The Gemara says that can't be. It says in the Brisa, I didn't highlight that, but both of them say she gets ksuba. Rabbi Lezer says poda and she gets ksuba. Rabbi Shua says she gets ksuba. It was not poda. Everyone says she gets ksuba. He's saying Rabbi Shua says he's not poda because it's her fault. If it's her fault, then she shouldn't get ksuba either. The reason why he has to
you said when they marry someone illegally, they still have to get.
That's illegal, but this is the case of Madir that she's making herself also to have relations. So that's nothing to do with it. That's because she's making herself not marriageable material. It's material.
Oh,
They were married. She shouldn't get ksuba.
But he agreed.
But if that's what it seems to say, that if you hold that it's his fault, Rabbi Yeshua says that it's her fault. I'm sorry, her fault. Rabbi Yeshua says, how come ain't opposed because it's her fault? If it's her fault, then you shouldn't get ksuba either. So it seems you don't look at it like that. So the Gemara rejects that teretz. That's the Gemara's kasha over here. He nasna esva benchina ksuba ma'avidata. That wouldn't make sense. And Vesu, and second of all, this is going to be the brisa that we put in parentheses before, that Rav Nosson spoke about, that is talking about that the nether was first before the captivity, or the captivity was first. And Sumcha said it's talking about the nether was first, or else there'll be haroma, there'll be a trick that'll do it in the loophole in order to get out of redeeming her. And the Gemara says that shows that she didn't make the nether. The Sua, second of all, on Rabbi Nosson, Shalti Samchas Kisham Rabbi Shua Nosson Lo Esk Subasav and Apoda Kishidi Olubasov Nishbis, so Kshinisbis Olubasov Idira. Bamalo Shamati. That's all the brisa. That the Nosson wanted to know if Rabbi Shua says that he does not apoda only if he made the nether first, or even if he made the nether afterwards. And he said, I'm not sure, and it continues about what is it, if it's etc. It says, but probably only if he made the nether first, or else it's going to be a Rama. The Nadra if she's the one who made the nether first, Mali Dira Nishras, Mali Nishras. Before we said the problem of Harama. Harama means that he's only making the nether in order to get out of the responsibility to redeem her. But if she made the nether, that's nothing to do with his Harama. He's not the one who's making any tricks. She made the Harama. He can't tell her to make the nether. That's her doing. That's nothing to do with Harama.
Could she have made the nether after she was captured?
Yes, why not? She can make a nether. She makes a nether. I'm not going to benefit from my husband.
Heard about it and then confirmed it.
Okay, if that would be the case. But
but
you're right. You're pointing out. No, but then you can't say that any problem of harama. We're saying the reason why Rabbi Yeshua will say over there he does have to be podet because or else he's going to trigger. He'll make this loophole. He's going to do it in order to get out of it. If she's the one who started it, so then surely no harama. I'm not the one who make any tricks over here. So therefore, the more rejects that teretz. That's not a good deal. So we're back to the machlokas Rabbi Lezer Bishua, and it seems to be back to the machlokas. The only way to figure it out is going to be the machlokas Rabbi Abai and Rava. It must be as Eshes Kohen, and the Kohen technically cannot live with her anymore. Is he still chayv to be poda? Maybe Rabbi Lezer sounds like Abai, that he has to be poda because his chiyuv to redeem is different than a regular Yisrael. Even though he can't take her back as a wife, he's chayv to redeem her. And Rabbi Shua will say no, that Yisrael wouldn't be chayiv, and the Kohen's also not chayiv. That's what the Gemara seems back to what we thought. But the Gemara now is going to push away the proof. Olam the Adra Ihu. Really, back to what we said. He made the nether, and back to the way we thought before. And that's not a reason why he shouldn't be poda. Why he has to be poda. We don't say that it's his fault. We don't say nothing. No machlokas. Just to say it in a word, the Gemara is going to be pretty long. But what the Gemara is going to say, that there's a question about basa meikara, basa basof. It's going to be both an Abai and Rava. The Gemara is going to say that everyone's going to say that the machlokas is if she's not roy to take back as a wife. A regular Ishes Israel, nothing to do with a Kohen, nothing to do with a Kohen. We'll see soon about a Kohen that's a machlokes, but that's not the point. The point is that he said, I'm going to redeem you and take you back. And if he can't take her back, he's not chayv to redeem her. He's only chayv to redeem her if he could take her back as a wife. Here, when he made the ksuba, she was eligible to be taken back because she was no nether over there. At the end, the Maisa, when he comes to redeem her, he cannot take her because the nether happened. Do you look at that? That's the question. Do you look at it that he obligated himself at the time of the marriage? He obligated himself to this woman because at that time she was roy, or you look at it at the time of the redemption and then she's not roy. It means all the cases we had till now about the Chayve Lav and all these other cases, the Chayve Lavin, or Chayve Kuna, all these things was the whole time they were not roy. At the time of the Ksuba, he didn't obligate himself that because she wasn't roy to take back. But in this case, when a nether happened in between, so at the time of the writing of the Ksuba, there was no nether at the time. She was roy to take back. And later on, when it comes to Maisa to redeem, but then she's not roy. Do you look at it Basa Meikor, do you look at it Basa Basov? That's what it was. Basa Meikor means do you go according to the original, right? Or do you go according to the end? According to the beginning, she was roy to marry. So when he obligated himself to this woman who was roy to marry, even though later on her status changed, but he obligated himself to marry this woman.
That was my question.
Did you say that? Yeah.
Well, my shita was that I guess I was going after the Ikara.
That what? That since at the time he obligated.
Since at the time that she got captured, he was obligated to redeem her. He should have to redeem her.
You're talking about another case.
Yeah.
About another case. But by the case of the Chayve Lavin or something like that, so there at the time he was not obligating himself because he wasn't able to marry her.
Okay.
So that's what the Gemara says in short. But it speaks out that this is not dependent on the homofocus of Abayin Rava. Nothing to do with this question if she made the nether, whose fault it is. He made the nether, and even though it's his fault, that's not a reason that he should have to redeem her. Abayin Matalz Tamei, Rava Matalz Tamei. Each one will explain the price according to his reasoning. Abayin Matalz Tamei. Amar L'Kohen Gadol Kohen L'Pligi the Chayv L'Vdosa.
Everyone Gadol cannot marry the other. Is that right?
Right. And Abai is the one who said that since a Kohen obligates himself to take her back home to her father's home, so he is chayiv because he obligated himself even though he cannot marry her. Like I said, Abaya said. Mamzeh in Israel.
He says low plea means nobody, even
Rabbi Lezer Bishua. No, Rabbi is talking. Rabbi argues on it, but Rabbi is saying that Rabbi Lezer Bishua won't argue about this case. Rabbi Lezer Bishua don't argue. Rabbi is talking to explain the brisa. That everybody would agree to me that if it would be a case of a Kohen that has to take back Almana, even though he can't take her back, he has time to redeem her because he said, "I'll take you home to your father's home." So take her home. If it will be Mamzeh and that he cannot marry her and he obligated himself only to take her back in marriage, as I said, everybody agrees to this. And this nobody argued on. And Madir Eshes Kohen Nami Pligi the Chayv Dosa, if it will be a case that we thought that the Kohen would have made a neder not to have relations with his wife, that's also going to be the same case that he's chayiv to redeem her, because I'll take you back to your father's house. Okay, take her home. If it will be a Yisrael that he cannot take her back, right? He cannot take her back, but he never obligated him, and he didn't obligate himself only to marry her. I'll take you back in marriage, and he can't take her back in marriage. So where's the room for machlokas over here? Rabbi Lezer says we go according to when he made the ksuba. When he made the ksuba, she was ready to take back. There was no nether yet. Therefore, it's chayv to take her back now also. That since now when he's coming to redeem her, he can't take her back. He's not chayv to take her back. And Rav is going to say the same thing. That's the machlokas. Rav Matas Tamei just going to say that I disagree with you about the point of Alman L'Kohen Gadol. Alman L'Kohen Gadol, Mamzeh Shenosin Yisrael, Kolam L'Pligi, Then Chayv L'Vdosa. Like he said before, there's no difference in Kohen. The Kohen is not
because it wasn't allowed to.
Right, and even though he said, "I'm going to take you back home," he didn't mean to include even Alman L'Kohen Gadol. He just meant to say that a shvuya that I'm not allowed to marry, I'll take you back home to your father's home. But if it's something that no one's allowed to marry, I didn't mean to obligate myself anymore. Then we're just throwing in that Abai and Rav are still holding to the machlokas. The Beinashes Kohen, Beinashes Israel. Machlokas will be this point that he made the neder that in middle of the marriage means when they got married, she was able to be taken back as a wife. Rabbi Lezer says, since at the time when they got married and he wrote the ksuba, she was able to be taken back. So he obligated himself to redeem her. But Rabbi Shua that since at the mice when he's coming to redeem her, she's already not captured. She's already neder. There's already a neder that stops him from taking her back. He's not chayiv. And the Gemara, what happened? everybody agrees. Everybody agrees. There's a chiddush to us that everybody agrees that the Yisrael is only chayiv to redeem her if he can take her back as a wife, and if something's standing in the way, like Mamzer and Sin of Yisrael, these things, then he wouldn't be chayiv to redeem her. The machlokas was a kohen that since he obligated himself to bring her back to her father's house, does that obligate him more, even in a case where he's not allowed to take her back because the chayiv lav is in the way? Maybe he still has to redeem her. That's machlokas Abai and Rava. It seems to be passing like Rava, that he only meant to broaden his chiyuv only to include a shvuya, but not other kinds of yisurim. And then we had the issue that the Gemara says now about if there was a neder in between, that you say basal besof is not a reason to be more chayiv, because at the time of the neder, she was possible to take her back. At the time of the writing, at the time of the ksuba, it was possible to take her back. Maybe that's enough to be chayiv. Or to Lezer, Bishua says no. You go according to Lamais when he's going to redeem her. If she's not possible to take back as a wife, he's not chayiv to redeem her. Next Gemara. Nishbis chayiv levdosa. So what do we say, that a husband is chayiv?
Excuse me, do we know how we pass it?
As seems like passing like Rava, that says that the Kohen does not obligate himself more than
And it'll be on the tzibur.
then it'll be on the tzibur. That what? That he didn't obligate himself only if he can take her back. There's no difference between the Kohen and the Yisrael, only as far as the shvuya. That even though the shvuya he cannot take back, the Kohen obligates himself anyway to bring her home to the father. But anything else, he's the same as the Yisrael. He didn't obligate himself only if he could take her back as a wife. And if something's in the way, then he doesn't have to.
So it wouldn't have to come from his money, but if he wanted to give money, the husband wanted to give money to the tzibur.
Yeah, and the tzibur gives money also, then everybody's chayiv to ransom her out. There's nothing specific on the husband then. Nishbis chayiv levdosa. So what if the husband, before he had a chance to redeem her, he died?
I have nishbis.
Chayiv levdosa.
Lifdos, I see. Yeah, that's
Son Rabbana, Nishbis b'chayiv bala b'achach meis bala. The husband died. Before he redeemed her, he died, and now the Yorshim might be chayiv. Did the Yorshim also have the chayiv to redeem the mother? What would you say?
Yeah, sure.
So we could jump and say why not, but we'll go slow. I mean, the Gemara is going to say as far
So
as
what's
why
the
not. Why,
question?
that
the husband died before he redeemed her.
and now this Yorshim chayiv maybe Mazonos and they have a lot of chiyuvim to the almana. Are they chayiv also to redeem her?
You would think all his bills that he owes, that they, it's not
Yeah,
their money,
yeah.
like all the bills are paid off for whatever he owes.
So just to jump to the bottom, the Gemara is going to say that if the chiyuv to redeem her is only to take her back as a wife, it's a package deal to take her back as a wife. You can't take her back as a wife. They're not here anymore. He's dead. So if the chiyuv to redeem is part of the marriage, I'll redeem you and take you back as a wife. But here that's not happening because he died. So that's as far to say that he's not chayiv, that the children don't have to redeem her. It's not a din of redemption. Redemption also has to redeem her. But here it's because he's redeeming her as a wife. He's taking her. We're loyal till the end. I'll take you back as a wife even if you're captured.
His regular bills out.
Maybe redeeming is like Mazonos.
Redeeming is like.
Mazonos.
No, it's not. He's right,
No, it's not.
but here it's saying it's not. It's not just redeeming zonas. Here it's to continue the marriage. That's after we finish the Gemara on top. We have a new insight into this redemption, this ransoming. It's not just a ransom. It's to continue the marriage. It's continuing the marriage, and here the marriage is not continued because he died. So that's the side that someone don't have to pay, and that's what the Gemara is going to say soon. The Gemara is going to say that that's what we'll see in a second. That's what the Gemara is going to say. But first, it starts off that it depends if the husband knew about it before he died. If the husband knew about the fact that she was captured before he died, then the Yorshim are chayiv to redeem from the money that they got of the Yerusha. But lo yekebabala, that he didn't find out about it. He died before he found out about it. Then ein Yorshim chayiv levdosa. I don't really know what the Gemara thought at this point. That it makes difference if he found out about it. I don't know what the Gemara
found out about it
before he died. If he found out about it, then the chiyuv takes a. Then for some reason he's
then he has the chiyuv.
and even though now he died, then he can't marry her. He can't take her back in marriage. The Yorshim have to redeem her, even though she's not going to be married anymore.
We go by Ikara.
What does that have to do with the finding out about? He has to do it if he heard about it. Before Meikara Basov meant that when he obligated himself. Here we're talking about did the chiyuv take effect because he heard about it and now he's chayiv and now the Yorshim also have to pay for it. So it makes difference if he heard about it. I don't know what the difference should be. The Gemara is going to say no. The Gemara says
when he heard about it, he was alive. She could come back. She
But
could
yeah,
be
but now,
redeemed to her husband.
but now the Yorshim can't help her. They say we'd like to help you to have a continual marriage, but our father died, so we can't give you the marriage anymore. So the chiyuv is only to make this package deal of taking back the marriage.
You can say maybe
Yes.
as soon as he found out about it, there's a key on his property.
the chiv on the property, but still it's a chiv in the property to take her back in marriage. But that's not going to happen. He's not going to take her back in marriage because he's dead. That's what the Gemara is going to say now. I didn't see an explanation of why it would have made a difference if he heard
You're
about
giving
it.
a lot of reasons why they'd not be chayiv, but it says they're chayiv.
Right, so it says that they fight that. I'm asking. It says the chayiv if they heard about it.
Yeah.
If you heard about it, he's chayiv. If they heard about it, you're not chayiv. The more continues. Levi Sava Lamev Duvda Kemosni. So Levi wanted to pass him like this: that if he heard about it and then he dies, so then they do have to pay for the ransom. Rav said to Levi, Habibi, this is what my uncle said. Habibi means my beloved one, which for some reason it means an uncle. Also in Hebrew, Dod is an uncle. Dod means beloved. So why is an uncle called beloved? I don't know, but everyone could say pshat why the uncle is called the beloved one. We don't pass like this brisa.
He only gives presents, not this.
He only gives presents, he doesn't have to say it in Musa. Okay, maybe. That's why he's beloved.
Only if he's a rich
So
uncle.
Levi is not, no, even the non-rich. So Levi is not part of the town Rabban.
Levi, no, Levi's an Amora. So Levi wanted to pass like this brisa. I've told him that my uncle said, we don't pass like this brisa. El Kiara Tanya, different brisa. Nishbis la'acha misa as ba'ala, eina yisoman chavon lefdosa. If she was captured after the death of the husband, that's pashut. She was captured after the husband died, then surely you're not chayiv to redeem her. But below, oh, they'll feel nishbis b'chayiv ba'ala. V'yachkach meis ba'ala, eina yisoman chavon lefdosa. Even if she was captured in the husband's life, but then he died, and here it doesn't say the difference if he found out about it or not. It doesn't differentiate. And here it says the reason is because we don't call upon her. It means that she's not included in the ksuba that says, I'm going to take you back as a wife. Here we can take her back as a wife. That's where the Gemara ends off. That's the end of the sugya, that they're not chayiv to redeem her because the redemption goes a package deal. I'll redeem you as a wife. And here he can't redeem her as a wife, so there's no chiyuv. Before the Gemara thought there's a difference. The first Bryce said is that once he found out about it, the Nechasim was chayiv, like the fine said. But now it says that it's only if he could do the whole job. If he could marry her, but he can't marry her over here, so there's no chiyuv on the Nechasim either. Next point.
What about a yokel?
Oh, very nice. Moshe is asking that if there's a yavam around, he's going to take her back as a wife.
Right.
So I saw that the Tosfos Rid talks about it here at the bottom. Here's the Tosfos Rid. He says here.
Good.
That's good.
He's on the
Oh, so that can continue the marriage.
He says here that not even if there's going to be a yavam, it's not called a wife because the yavam is not called a wife. Sheyavama nikres below isha, and he goes on with that point. That's his point. So he talks about it. I didn't have what he was saying first, but then that's what he's coming to say, that even if there's yavam around, it's also not continuing the marriage. Tana Rabbana, new point. Nishbis she was captured, and the captors, they're asking 10 times the regular price. Does he have to redeem her also? Tanakama says yes. Even tell 10 times. I don't think it means only, maybe even 20. I don't think it means only. Okay, whatever. But much more than the regular price. Pamishona Poda. If one time, yes. He has to redeem her one time. He can't pay like what's a Poda was in the Poda. After that, he doesn't have to. He's not mechuyev to. It's interesting that Rashi seems to explain at the time. If the husband's not only the first time,
But that has nothing to do with how much money.
that comes out. That's a little difficult in the word. That's the kasha. The wording that it says here sounds like if it was very expensive, only one time. Rashi says that here's Rashi in the bottom. So that's interesting. Rashi makes it sound like even if it would have been not for an expensive price. Yeah, the only one time. That's what it sounds like. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel argues on the whole halacha that to redeem her more than her price. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer ein poden as hashvuyin yasar al kedei demeim. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to redeem captives more than their value because tikkun olam that they shouldn't come again. And that's what's nowadays. People don't have this and they think they're doing a mitzvah when they redeem for more than the value. And the Gemara says you're not supposed to because then they're going to come and capture more. So he holds even by a husband also. The husband also is not supposed to redeem her for more than her value. The Gemara is a kasha on this, not a brisa that says a different. That's the end of the brisa. It's finished. I forgot to put. This brisa says the holy, but how about if it's more than the ksuba? Means is that also a factor? Very many. Another brisa says differently. An idea, but not about more than her value, but more than the value of the ksuba. she was captured, and they're asking for 10 times more the worth of the ksuba, not about the going rate, the
Right.
ksuba. So again, Tanakama says, Tanakama says one time, but after that he doesn't have to. But Shimon Gamliel Omer, if that only has to redeem her up to the ksuba, have to redeem her for more than the ksuba. So Ramon's kasha was, before he said the criteria was if it's more than the going rate, he is saying the criteria is if it's more than the ksuba. The answer is Shimon Gamliel Trekulis. They hold both of them, two maximums. He doesn't have to redeem her more than the value of the ksuba, and even if within that is going to be the more than is going to be the value of more than her value of the going rate, also he doesn't have to pay more than the going rate. He doesn't have to pay more than its ksuba.
I'm sorry, where did it end? The rest? Says, huh?
Period. And that's the kasha, because before he says the criteria was more than her value, he says the criteria is more than her ksuba. And the answer is, he holds both of these leniencies. He doesn't have to pay more than her value, he doesn't have to pay more than her ksuba.
But this has nothing to do still with the Kesuvos. If let's say a year later, they get divorced, then he still has to give
He
them-
owes her ksuba, yeah.
this is
Oh, that's
like-
interesting. That even though he redeemed her for the value of her ksuba, but still, he has to give ksuba also. It doesn't mean that takes off the ksuba. Yeah, that's true. I realize that. The next halacha the Mishnah says about if she gets sick, he has to heal her. And over there it said that he has the option of divorcing her if he doesn't want to continue, but by shevinat, by captivity, once she's captured, he has to redeem her. He can't give her a get now. But if she gets sick, then he does have to heal her. But then he says he could give her a get if he doesn't want to continue.
Yeah.
He's talking about that the husband died, and she gets mazonos. The children, the yorshim, they have to give her food from the estate. If she needs medicine, that's like considered food, and therefore they have to give. The children also have to give. The yorshim have to give food to the almana the same way, and they have to give refu also. If she needs medicines, that goes in the bill of the mazonos. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, there's difference. What kind of a refu it is? Refu sheish lo kitzvah and israpes miksubasa. Shein lo kitzvah reikim mazonos. What kind of refu is considered mazonos if it's ongoing? If it's non-ending. She needs medicine. The doctor says for the rest of your life you have to have this medicine. Whatever it might be.
would mean there isn't it.
Right, yesh lo kitzvah means it has an end. So there, it's not considered mazonos. I read the end. You're right. I read the second part first.
Yeah.
She'ein lo kitzvah, that's mazon. That I agree to. If the doctor says she has to have cholesterol medicine, whatever it might mean, ongoing medicine. So then that's considered food. Everyone has to eat breakfast, lunch, and supper, and also take medicine. But if it's something which is a one-time thing, yesh lo kitzvah, one-time thing, or there's an end to it. It's a limited thing for 5 months, for 10 months, for a year. That's considered a yesh lo kitzvah, and therefore, an operation is a one-time thing. So then that's not considered food, and therefore, on the Shabbos miksubasa, that the children, the yorshim, they don't have the chiyuv besides the ksuba. They take that off the ksuba money. Means they have to pay the ksuba. If they have to pay the ksuba, yes, because the husband died first, but they give mazonos before. If they don't give the ksuba, they just keep on going. She lives in the husband's house and she gets supported, and she doesn't take till she takes the ksuba. We'll see more about that later.
It comes off.
But it goes off the ksuba. It means that they don't have to give the money of the Yerusha. It comes off the ksuba.
Right.
The post can talk about this is only about a Yorshim, but we paskin that the husband doesn't, he's chayiv to pay for no difference if it's a kitzvah or not a kitzvah. It seems we pass like Rav Shimon Gamliel that the Yorshim don't have to pay from their own money, from the Yerusha money for the refuah sheyesh la kitzvah, that goes off the ksuba. But the husband, he's alive and his wife is sick, then there's no difference if it's a kitzvah or no kitzvah. He has to pay for it the same way.
I see the yorshim, like over cataract surgery.
A one-time thing, any kind of one-time
That would
thing.
come out of her.
It comes out of her ksuba, right? They deduct it from the ksuba. That eventually, when she wants the ksuba, then they give her the ksuba, and they stop for supporting her. So then they take off the deduction of how much they paid for the operation already. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Asu Akazas Dam Be'eretz Yisrael Kirufuah Shein Lo Kitzvah. Another point that bloodletting in Eretz Yisrael that became a regular, healthy thing to do, whatever it is, once a month, once every 3 months, whatever they used to do with bloodletting. So that's considered a refuah shein lo kitzvah. That's an ongoing thing. A person's supposed to do that. So that's also considered a refuah, and they have to pay for it also. New story. Kreve de Rabbi Yochanan, a relative of Rabbi Yochanan, have a lahu itas abba. They have a sricha refuah. Kol yoma. They had a father's wife. It means there was the relative's father's wife, and the father had died, and the relative was the one who was feeding the, how do you call it, stepmother, right? The father had died, and he had a wife. It wasn't his mother; it was his father's wife, and he had died. And there's a chiyuv to ksuba that the kids are taken care of, and there's mazonos. They have to give mazonos. But she had a refuah which was kol yoma. Every day she had a certain medicine she had to take. It's ain't no kitzvah, right? And what happens? It goes from the mazonos.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's besides the ksuba. The ksuba doesn't get deducted.
Right.
Also, they came, the relative came to Rabbi Yochanan to ask for a netza. So there's a way to make it into a kitzvah. Go to the doctor and say, Rashi says the case would be, say, how much would you agree to do this treatment, whatever I said, medicine, treatment, you go to the pharmacy, you make, give me a price for the rest of her life for this treatment.
Kutsule midi
Set a price of one-time price for the rest of her life. So now it becomes a yesh kitzvah. It'll say, okay, for the rest of her life, as long as she lives, if it's going to be 1 year, it's going to be 10 years, $1,000. I'll take care of it no matter how long she lives. Now it becomes a yesh kitzvah. He changed it into a yesh kitzvah, and now it goes off the ksuba. So Rabbi Yochanan said like a knech, how to change the ein kitzvah, which will be mazonas that doesn't go off the ksuba, to make into a yesh kitzvah. Anything wrong with saying that? Anything wrong?
Doesn't seem nice. Now, is this because they were strapped for money or something?
I don't know, but this way it saved them money. It saved them
They were
money.
trying to save their money. They would still do it, but
They will do it, but it's going to go off the ksuba, right? So if they would have had
about a mother-in-law, they're not very generous.
a stepmother.
That's even worse. It's like a
stepmother
Cinderella
to a
story.
relative.
Yeah, so they want
It's
to
not their
say
step.
whatever they can.
Some relatives. It's
Yeah,
Uncle
okay, so-
Herman's.
Yeah, whoever. So
They have to
show
marry off
us-
their kids. They don't want to be supporting a non-stepmother.
Yeah,
Okay, but here the Gemara seems to say, I'll say, he gave an eitzah. So Rabbi Yochanan then had second thoughts about it.
Okay.
Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Asinu Asmenu Korchei Adayanim. We made ourselves be on himself. He said, I made myself like Orcha. It says, I'll be Korchei Adayanim. Don't be like a lawyer. I made myself like a lawyer. Means I took sides over here. Now, is anything wrong with being Orcha Din? Is anything wrong to be a lawyer? We did it. When we did Pirkei Avos, we went into this. We got some clarity at the time. It says, don't make yourself like a lawyer. And we said at the time, what does that mean? A lawyer lies? Of course you shouldn't lie.
No, but he's on the side of his litigant.
Right. So is that something wrong with that? So we went into the sugi a little bit. And here, the way we came out, I think, if I remember correctly, that Orach Din is not doing anything wrong. Be'etzem. He's not, of course, he's only saying the truth. He's only saying truth.
Yeah.
But he's saying
One
Eitzah
side.
to one side and the cheshbon of the opponent. On the litigant. So why are you taking sides? Like, stay out of it. Why are you taking sides? A person himself, if he's a chacham and he knows how to say a taina and bezdin that will make him win, he's allowed to, no problem.
Yeah.
But why helping somebody? Why are you helping Reuven on the cheshbon of Shimon? It's nice that you're doing a good eitzah, but you're giving it on the cheshbon of Shimon. So that's the orach din. We say al tiyeh karcha dayanim. So now Yochanan's question was: is a relative allowed to help out? That's his question. Is a relative allowed to help? A brother, my brother is in a court case, is in Bezdin, and I have an eitzah for him how to taina that he should save money. It's going to be on the cheshbon of the opponent. Is my brother considered close enough that I should be able to help him out, or is it like stay
Like
out?
taking a bribe or
Why take sides? What?
Sort of like in this week's parsha about taking a bribe.
It's not a bribe. Bribe is usher. That's you're not allowed to take a bribe, of course not. But here it's not a question of a bribe. Everything is mutter. Everything is permissible. But the question we say usually, don't become a lawyer. Why taking sides? But here is the reason why I'm taking sides, because it's my relative.
What about if it's a close friend?
Maybe also. I'm not sure. But here it says, may Korah. So the Gemara says, may Korah
They
myself.
were relative to Rabbi Yochanan.
Why?
They weren't relative.
It was. It says here, Kreve. It started
To
off.
Rabbi Yochanan.
It was a Kreve Rabbi Yochanan.
Right, I see.
Rabbi Yochanan's
Okay,
relative.
fine.
So then Rabbi Yochanan had Charata. He said, we became a lawyer. May Korah myself. What did he think? Why did he change his mind? First, he said that the pasuk says, "Don't ignore your relatives." So I'm taking care of my relative. So it's not called that I'm sticking in. It's not my business. It is my business. It's my relative. Of course, you're not allowed to sue him. You're not allowed to steal. Of course, he didn't steal. But he said a taina, and he helped out his relative on the cheshbon of somebody else. That's okay. That's good for regular people. But Adam Chashiv, it doesn't look good. People say, "Oh, the Rabbi Yochanan, he took." So since people talk by Adam Chashiv, so then he's supposed to be more makbid. But it seems that Allah is that for a relative you are allowed to help out. Only Adam Chashiv has a question to be more makbid, like Hasidus. But really, you're allowed to do this.
What's the pasuk? Which means
Do not look away from your relative. Psocha means your flesh. from your
And
flesh.
So how did it go?
Originally he thought that the right.
Right.
What did he think in the beginning? What did he change his mind? First, Rabbi Yochanan did give dates, and then he had regret. In the beginning, he thought,
like Yeshaya, help your help.
right, and then he thought that maybe I'm
So
different. Adam Chashuv Shani. That maybe Adam Chashuv is supposed to be more machmir, like a Hasidus. That I should be Hasidus, even though it's right. Regular people, it's okay, but for me, maybe it's not good because people will look at me and they're going to talk. It's a Chol Hashem. People expect a higher standard.
And these people that came to him, it was their stepmother?
Yes.
I see. And then he happened to be a relative to those.
Right. We came out when we learned Sugya and Pirkei Avos. I think the way we came out was that to become a lawyer gets paid.
That what?
A paid lawyer,
Yeah,
like every lawyer is paid.
yeah.
So is there any time don't be okay dayanim?
Of course not.
Why?
That's what they get paid.
Because they get paid for. But no, are they doing something wrong?
No.
Why? Because you ask him why are you taking sides? Because he's paying me. You want to pay me? I'll take your side. And of course, I think people learn Pashup Shah. They learned Alti Korachaya Dayanim because you're doing illegal stuff. You're doing lies. Of course, that's us. You don't need a Mishnah for that. We're talking about a legal law. He's only doing everything right, but his kindness are going to help out one side against the other side. So yes, you a regular person who comes in to help out. We tell him what a gemach for lawyers. So we say, why can't I gemach for lawyers? Maybe be a lawyer for the other side. Why are you taking sides? But if he has a reason why he's going to be a lawyer because you're paying me, then it's mutter. That's what the person seems to say. The Mishnah continues. We had before a couple of things that it said, even if you didn't write it, it's still you have to do it. Like you didn't write the Kesuvos, you still have to. If you didn't write, I'm going to redeem it, you still have to. You designated only a certain field for the Kesuba, all your fields are designated. But the Mishnah continues, other things, another three things it says in this Mishnah, they're all in yellow, that even if you didn't write it, you still chayiv shoot tonight bezdin. So this is going to be the famous B'nan Dichrin and the B'nan Nukvan, we know all about that already, and another third one also. So here, lo kasavla, he didn't write the following. The yellow is what's highlighted, what should be in the Kesuba, and they didn't write it. We don't write it nowadays for some reason. But even though he didn't write B'nan Dichrin, it still takes effect. He didn't write B'nan Dichrin, they have a lechiminoy, inon yas and kesav Kesuba seich yeser al chalkon de machuhon. Even though he didn't write it, still chayiv shu tonight bezin. What is that? The male sons that you're going to have from me, they're going to inherit the money of your ksuba besides their portion with their brothers. Means that each woman gets a ksuba. What does ksuba mean? That if the husband dies first or divorces her, so she gets 200 zuz, and if he made a tosefes, also the nadunya, whatever she brought into the marriage goes back there. And now she died first. She died before the husband, so she didn't get ksuba. But the clause in the ksuba says that eventually, when the husband dies, and they had many children from wives, so her children are going to get what she would have gotten for ksuba. And even if you didn't write it, it still takes effect. The second one is B'nan Nukvan. This is about the daughters. B'nan Nukvan, they have in the Chiminoi, you have in Yasvan, Bevesi, or Mizah Manachase, Aditi Lakal Gubrin. The daughters that I'm going to have from you should be sit in my house even after I die and be supported from my nechasim until they get married. Over there, Rashi also says until they become a bogeres, whichever happens first, until they become a bogeres or until they get married, that they have a right to be supported from this state. Even though they don't get Yerusha, but they get supported from this state. And even though you didn't write it, chayiv shutanai bezdin. Even if you didn't write it in the ksuba, it still has effect. And the third thing, and another thing that you should have written in the ksuba, and even if you didn't write it, it's still chayiv. That he writes in the ksuba that you, Dalmana, you, my wife, if I die in your lifetime, so you remain in my house and you get supported from my estate as long as you are continuing your widowship in my house. Means if you marry, then it stops. But if you still, as long as you're staying as my widow, you have a right to stay in my house and to be supported from my estate. And even if you didn't write it, chayiv shu tonight business. So it says three things that are chayiv even though they didn't write it, B'nan Dichrin, B'nan Nukvan, and not they ask for bevesi. The Moshe has one point about the last part of the Mishnah. The above nusach was what they wrote in Yerushalayim, and Anshe Yerushalayim also. In Gogol, the north of Eretz Yisrael, there also was the custom they wrote. That was the nusach that they wrote. But
You started by saying that they didn't write these things.
No. It just means that this is the things that's supposed to be written, and even if you didn't write it, you're still chayiv. But that's the nusach.
But in Jerusalem, that's what they wrote.
Yeah, but the point is not if they wrote it or not, even if you didn't write it. But the point is that's the chiyuv. The chiyuv of ksuba.
That's the chiyuv. But
Right.
what I'm trying to understand what it means that in Jerusalem they wrote it.
They wrote it, and
This
if they,
nusach that
right?
most people didn't write.
No. We're going to see soon the next nusach. There's another choice of. There's a choice of nuschos, and the third
And this
third
is the way
one.
that-
This is the nusach that they wrote. It doesn't make a difference if they wrote it or not. This is the nusach that they abide by. This is the law this is the custom in Yerushalayim and in Golul, that the wife stays in the house until, as long as she's a widow. As long as she stays in her widowhood, she gets to live in the house to be supported. We'll see in the second the contract. Go back.
Okay,
Yehuda, they have a different custom of what the Tanai Ksuba was, what they wrote, and if they didn't write it, it takes effect. Anshi Yehuda Yekosvin the following. Anshi Yirsu HaYorshem Litalach Ksubaseh. Not as long, and the way we have it, the way the Golul has it, Yerushalayim, so then it's as long as she wants to stay. As long as she wants to stay, if she doesn't remarry, as long as that is, the Yorshim have no right to stop it. They can't terminate it. As long as she wants to stay in, as a widow, she has a right to get supported and live on board. Yehuda, they gave the option to the Yisomim that if they wanted, they could give her the ksuba and send her away. And
I'm sorry, if what?
if they wanted, if the Yorshim wanted to, they could say, we're giving you the ksuba, and you're
Even though, what if she wants?
even if she wants to
can
stay.
there.
No, that's only in the Golul and Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is in Yehuda, but there was an exception. But the rest of Yehuda, they put a clause in the ksuba that the Yorshim have the right to give her the ksuba, the full ksuba.
Yirtzu here is the Yorshim?
That's what it says. It says that she gets to a Yorshim.
Oh, Yirtzu, well, I thought it meant that as long as she wanted, the Yorshim had to give her.
The words mean until the Yorshim want. Ad sheyirtzu hayorshim, litan lach ksuba say.
I see. Okay.
And it means they have an option of stopping it. It means when they get mizon, she's a witch, she doesn't get after Yorshim to give the ksuba to stop it. The fikich and Rasa Yorshim knows like ksuba supposed to know. So if the Yorshim want in Yehuda, the Yorshim could give her the ksuba and tell her that it's over. Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Yeshimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Yochanan said the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. If they ask, why did the Chacham make such a takana that they write into the ksuba, or if they didn't write it, that before they divide the Yerusha, the ksuba of each woman goes to her children, even though they died first. The woman died first. This whole thing, why did they invent it? That a person should jump means it should be easy for him to be able to give the presents to his daughter. She's getting married. How much a dowry will a man give to his daughter? If he knows eventually it might leave his Yorshim, it'll go to the husband's Yorshim, not from his own daughter. So then he'll be hesitant to give her property. Why should he give her? Eventually, the next generation, it's going to be lost. This way, he knows that even if his daughter dies first, the whatever dowry he gave her will remain with her children, his grandchildren. The Gemara says, "Akasha Lamaisa, you're orchestrating that a person should give from his estate to his daughters, and for the next generation, it's going to go to the daughters Yorshim, and it's not staying by his sons." And the Gemara says, "You wish it's supposed to go to the sons. You're not supposed to orchestrate that it should go to the daughters." Is it such a thing that the Torah says the son should yarshin and the daughter should not yarshin, and they're going to come to encourage that the daughter should yarshin? The Gemara says, no, this is also what the Torah wants. The Torah wants you to be able to give your daughters dowry in order they should be able to get married. This is also from the Torah. The Chsiv, it's not a pasuk in the Torah, but it's a pasuk in Yirmiyah. Well, that is the pasuk. Take women. Over there, talking about the Golos over there. That Yirmiyah said, "You're going to be Golos for a while, get married, have children. Take women and have children, and boys, sons and daughters, and take women for your sons, and give your daughters to men." That means there's a mitzvah to get your daughters married. How do you get your daughters married? That's the most kasha. It's possible that you tell your sons to get married. What do? They go and they get married. Can he get his daughters married? How do you get your daughters married? It means it was a problem that you can't get your daughters married. The man goes to look for the wife, and that's the normal way of the land, that the men look for the woman, but the woman can't go out looking for a man. That's like not the way of the land. So how could it be? Must be that it's supposed to make her attractive. This means that it says, give her something. What does it say? Something. No, that means money. Give her dress. It says here, that means that get her dressed and give her whatever. Kasi means also to cover her, dress and cover. It means all kinds of different clothing, and give her something. That means money. Give her money that people should jump on her. That means that they should want to marry her. Make an incentive people should want to marry her. So that's also from the Torah. Just like the Torah wants that Yerusha should go to the sons, but the Torah wants you to marry with your daughters, and by giving you a nice dowry, it'll help her to get married. How much is advisable that a person should give to his daughter and not take away from the Yerusha of the sons? Till a tenth of his estate. Till a tenth, the rest of it he should leave for the sons. The Master Kasha,
Why only that?
because we don't leave the Yerusha for the sons.
Where is it supposed to be the Yerusha?
And a
That's
tenth
the Gemara
means,
says. You're not supposed to take away Yerusha from the sons.
That's when someone's dying, you don't switch.
Yeah, the Gemara is saying. See here the Gemara says the whole point is that the Gemara is saying when a person gives this whole thing of being different, it's all because he's concerned about the future and the next generation. His daughter has it as long as she's married, she's alive, but he's concerned that she's going to die and then it's going to go to the next generation. So he's thinking so far ahead. So then the Gemara would it means if he wants to give it to her, so give it to her. But here he's giving it to her because he wants it to stay in the family. So then have this cheshbonos of who's going to yarshim.
And the tenth would be no matter how many daughters he.
I don't know. Or it means a tenth for each daughter. And if he has 10 daughters, then it all gone. Okay.
It
New
can't be
Gemara.
bad.
The aim of the av leavers, the baal leavers. So Ksuba includes a few things. It includes the dowry that the wife brought in. It includes also the mosayim, zuz, that every woman gets a basula or mana, and it also includes what the tosefes. If the husband desires to give more, kesufta da, tosefta dain, the dunya dain. So the question is, if the whole point of an indichman is only that the father should want to give a dowry, only that part should go on to the yarshim of the daughter. But anything else that is included in the ksuba, like the mana masayim, the 200, so then why should it go to the benin dichman? There's no reason for it. The whole reason we said is only because of this reason, that a person should give a dowry to his daughter. But it doesn't apply to other parts of the ksuba, like the tosefes or the mana masayim. The aim of the avdi is the ba'al but the father gives, then they go to the benin dichman. But what the husband gives should not go. The Gemara answers, okay, not the father's also not going to want to give. If he sees that the husband, that his mana masayim and tosefes is only going to stay in his family, it's not going to go to his daughter. So then he also won't be so generous to give the dowry to the son-in-law. The aim of hecha the kasav av lichtov baal hecha the lo kasav av lo lichtov baal. That this says only if the father gives a dowry, so then the husband should have to give the ksuba. That's what it means. The husband should have to give the ksuba. What does Rashi say about that? Given the time when Mishum Sheikh Potzavlo says the Dunya Labito, Hech the Kasabav the Dunya Labito Nechtaval Tanai Ksuba, but different. The whole din of an different should only apply if the father gives a dowry. But if the father didn't give any dowry, maybe there's no din of an different on the rest of it either. That's the most kasha. The whole reason is only based on the dowry. The Gemara says the Palagrabanan. They didn't differentiate. They made a takana of an indifference, even though the reason only applies if the father's giving a dowry. But even if not, also they made lo plug an indifferent. The ksuba goes to the Yerushim of the woman. The question is, what if there's a daughter? What's the question going to be over here? If this woman has a daughter, and there are other wives of this husband that have sons, so then there's no din of an indifferent. If you're saying the point is because of the dowry, then it shouldn't make a difference if it's a daughter or a son. The woman, the father who's giving presents to his daughter who's getting married, he wants to give her and make sure it stays in the family. So if it's only a daughter, then it also she has only a daughter. His daughter only has a daughter. So you should also want to give it because it should stay in the family. But the Gemara says no. They made it within the framework of Yerusha that we're not going to say that the daughter should yashim from if they have sons over there. The son who has the son-in-law who his wife died and now eventually he died. We're going to say that some of the Yerusha goes to his daughters. That's against the laws of Yerusha. We're not going to invent a whole new thing that's going to take away Yerusha from the Torah law. The next kasha is Bas Ben Abanas Tiros. What if there's all daughters, and the halach is over there that the daughters do Yarshin? Are you going to say also that the Benin Dichman is also going to translate into these daughters also, that each one should get the Yerusha that was coming to their mother? They didn't differentiate. They said that the Yerusha and only goes according to the sons. Next kasha, how come this halach of Benin Dichman only applies to Karka? It should apply to Metaltalim also if the Sfar is that the dowry should stay in the family. The answer is Kesuvos Shavri Abana. They made it. If the father died and now his nechasim are already sold, then the Yarshim can't go to the Lekuchos to collect Benin Dichman. How come? The answer is Yarshim Tanara. It has to do with Yerusha, and Yerusha is not from Rishabadim. One more kasha, that is later on we're going to see that the whole din of the Nedichman is only if there's some money left that goes to the regular Yerusha. If all the money is going to be divided, it's not going to be any dinner left. Even a dinner is not going to be left of Yerusha money that's going to be divided equally. Then there's no din of an Nedichman. Why not? The answer is, Rabbanan didn't want to uproot the whole din of Yerusha the Raisa completely. So if there's a Mosa dinner, at least a dinner that's going to be divided equally amongst the Yorshim, so then they added on the Benin Dichrin accordingly to each one's children. But if there's not going to be any Yerusha the Raisa, they didn't want to uproot it completely. Okay, we should stop here because there's a story coming up. There's a very interesting story coming up, so it'll take another 5 minutes. Papa was marrying his son to the daughter of Abu Surah. That was his mechutin. The Papa's mechutin, they were making a shidduch, the Papa's son, Abu Surah's daughter. And he was going to make the negotiations of how much dowry to give. Azal Michtav like Suba, he was going to write a Ksuba, the Papa was going to the mechutin, the Abu Surah, and Abu Surah was going to machayiv himself a dowry. Shama Yuda Bar Miriam and so Yuda Bar Miriam lived over there in Abu Surah's town. The Papa was coming. He came to greet the Papa. His chazile. When they got to the door of Abu Surah, then Yuda Bar Miriam wanted to go away. He didn't want to go inside. He knew he was coming in to write the negotiation. He didn't want to go inside. But Papa, you should go alone. But Papa wanted him to come in. Come in with me, because he knew that if there's somebody there, then a chashva person is there. So then Abu Surah is going to give more. He's going to give more of a dowry. Papa saw that Yuda Bar Miriam was not happy to come in. Amalei, my dad, why are you not happy to come in? Mishum, because you're going to be pressing him for money to give a dowry. Mishum Damalei Shmuel Rav Yuda Shinana Lo Tevi Bavuriach Santa Pilu Mibrov Bisha Lebrov Tava Telo Yedia Ma'izar Nafik Minei. That Shmuel told Rav Yuda Shinana. They say Shinana means this, the sharp one or the big toothed one. That don't be in a place where they're changing the Yerusha to give. Not according to the lochas of the Torah. Torah says to give Yerusha to all the sons and only to sons and equally. So don't even be in a bezdin where they're going to change the chasim of the Yerusha from a bad son to a good son, even though that he has a good intention that this good son deserves Yerusha better. Don't do that. And because you don't know what children are going to do. You don't know what's going to be the next generation. Even though he's a bad son, maybe the next generation will be good. Don't change the halachas of the Torah. Because the brata, and surely don't help out to change the Yerusha to give to a daughter, a present to the daughter. So that's why you're hesitating not to come in, because dowry is also getting the estate of the daughter of the son, what's coming to the son to give it to the daughter. But no, we said before that you're supposed to do this. That's what we learned before, that a person should give a dowry, that people should want to marry her. So you're supposed to give a dowry. So it's nothing wrong. So no problem. Come in. That's only if he wants to give, you're allowed to give, but to force him to give, I don't want to be there forcing him to give, pressuring him to give a dowry to his daughter. I told you to come in and to pressure him. Just come in. Don't pressure him. Just stand over there. If I'm going to come in, that's also called pressuring him. See, I don't want to go in. I'm going to stand there. It's also going to be pressuring him. But Papa was pressing on him, and he agreed to come in. So they came in, and there were the negotiations about the dowry. Ishtik, the Yosef. The whole time, he didn't want to say anything. He didn't want to say anything because he didn't want to pressure him. But Abu Surah got the wrong impression. Sabahu Mertach Batach. He thought that he was being quiet. He didn't give any compliment. Such a nice dowry you're giving. He didn't say anything. But he took it that he's not happy with him, that he's not giving enough. So he kept on adding on more. He gave everything. He wrote the dowry, everything that he has. He gave his whole estate to his daughter for the dowry. And he still didn't say anything. So he thought the whole time he's not talking because he wasn't satisfied. So he wrote away his whole estate, and he still saw that he wasn't complimenting. So he said, it's not enough. After I gave everything, still not complimenting. So he told him, no, you're misunderstanding. Still, Abu Surah said, I swear by your life, I didn't leave anything for myself. I gave away my whole estate to my daughter. What else can I give? He said, no, on the contrary, if you would have asked me, I would have told you not to give what you gave. You gave too much. I just didn't say anything. I didn't mean to say not giving enough. I didn't say anything. He said, should I retract and take? I didn't make a kinyan yet. Should I retract? Amalei, Shavi and Afsha Chadrana lo kameina. I didn't say to make yourself into a retractor. I didn't say that you should retract. If you said it already, so you said, but I didn't mean to. End of the Gemara. Nice
The Papa
story.
got his way.
Yeah, yeah.
It worked.
It worked. Yeah. That's the end of the Gemara. That should go out, everybody. What time are
Thank
we
you
Moshe
very much.
Shabbos?
Quarter to nine.
Word is-
9:15. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good Shabbos. Kol tov.
There's a thing there, yellow.